Hello, welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. It is the end of the month. We're heading toward the end of July. Can you believe it's almost August? I really can't. But anyway, since it's the end of the month, that means it's time to do a book haul. So that's what I'm here to do. It's kind of self-explanatory. There are not a whole lot of books here to talk about, but I really have to give a shout out because I'm a very proud husband to this. My husband made a cookbook, guys. It's amazing. My Mack Cheese, a cookbook by Joel McClanahan. Because his last name is McClanahan, Mack was a nickname. He doesn't really go by it anymore, but it still kind of fits the branding. So anyway, point just being, he made a cookbook. This was his quarantine project, and it came out really nicely. I'm such a proud husband about this. It just came out beautifully. It looks like a cookbook that was published by an actual publisher. So yeah, I am very proud. And there he is on one of his spreads. Yeah, it came out really well, and it has a lot of the recipes. And there's a chapter with recipes that I developed. It has a lot of the stuff that we regularly make at home and eat at home, or some of our favorite recipes. We actually, I had to hold on talking about this to you guys because we ordered a bunch of them. Obviously, we ordered one for us to hold on to, but we also ordered a bunch for family and sent them. This is kind of our Christmas present to family members this year, and we wanted to make sure they got it early because we're very big on the holidays. If you are a new subscriber, you wouldn't know that. But if you saw my blooper video, you saw the Christmas tree. Like, we're big on the holidays. So there's an entire chapter with holiday recipes, and we wanted to make sure people had it in advance. Like, for instance, these are two of my absolute favorites. I love this cranberry relish that he makes, and he makes the absolute best pecan pie. I was not a fan of pecan pie until I met Joel. But and there's us at our wedding on the back. He did such a good job putting this together. So I have to talk about this. I have to shout it out. I'm just so proud. It came together really nicely. All of the recipes in there are really great. I'll put a link to where the book is on the blurb site down below. You can purchase it. I don't expect anybody to do that, but I'll link it down below just in case you want to have a look, because I'm so proud of what he did. It's just amazing, and he's wanted to do this for a really long time, so I'm super proud, and had to share it with you. It's amazing. He would want me to point out that I did edit this for him, but it feels like that is a small amount of work compared to everything else that went into this. He did all of the recipes. He certainly developed all of the recipes, and he wrote all of the recipes. He put all of them together. He did the layout. He did the cover. He did everything. The only thing I wrote originally and on my own was the foreword, but he did everything else. All I did was edit it, which I mean was time consuming, but not as time consuming as everything else that went into this. So super proud of my husband. Again, I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. Now, ordinarily when I do a book haul, I read the first sentence of the book or read the blurb about it, but obviously, there's no blurb on this and there's no first sentence. I'm just a proud husband. So I figured instead of doing those things, I would just tell you about my favorite recipe in the book. And that's really hard because I like a lot of the things in this book, obviously, because we made this. But one of the things that was very new to me until I met Joel was monkey bread. And there is a monkey bread recipe in there. And one of the things that's cool about the book is he found his grandmother's old recipe cards and scanned them in to put them in with the recipes. So I had never had monkey bread before I met Joel. And interestingly, we met when we lived in New York City. And he wanted to make it. So we were in the grocery store, and he was in the freezer section, and he couldn't find what he was looking for. So I said, "Can I help?" And he said, "I'm looking for dough balls." And I was like, "Dough balls?" He's like, "Yeah, frozen dough balls." And I was like, "That's not a thing." He's like, "No, it's a thing." So, and I was like, "That's really not a thing." And he went and found a grocery store employee and said, "Hey, I'm looking for frozen dough balls." And the person looked at him and was like, "Frozen dough balls? That's not a thing." And he was like, "No, it's a thing." Even when we went to Vermont with my family in the fall, he looked in the grocery store and was like, there are no frozen dough balls. And I was like, "Yeah, I know, it's not a thing." So we went to Kansas to visit his family. I think that's where it happened. And then he went into the freezer section of a grocery store and held them up and was like, "Look, it's a thing." So it's just a funny story about those two. Frozen dough balls are a thing, but regionally. So anyway, that would be my favorite recipe. Like I said, I'm a very proud husband. for what he did. I think he did a great job putting this together. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. And then getting into the rest, I got Olivia by Dorothy Strachey. This is a book that's kind of been on my radar for a while, since I really joined BookTube. I've heard a couple of people mention it, a little bit of mixed stuff about it, but it sounds really intriguing to me. By the way, it's only small, so hopefully I'll be able to get to this soon, but that's a dangerous thing for me to say. Now, first published in 1949 under a pseudonym and based loosely on the author's own life, Olivia tells the story of a 16-year-old girl named Olivia, who is sent from England to a Parisian finishing school to broaden her education. Soon after her arrival, she finds herself falling under the spell of her beautiful and charismatic teacher, Mademoiselle Julie, who introduces her to art galleries, literature, and fine cuisine. But Mademoiselle Julie's life is not as straightforward as Olivia imagines. As they grow closer, their relationship is threatened by jealousy and rivalry, and the school year seems destined to end in tragedy. So, of course, this is kind of an LGBTQ book, and that always piques my interest. It sounds a little bit gothic, and there's a bit of intrigue. Interestingly, there's an introduction by Andre Asselman, who is the author of Call Me By Your Name. And the first sentence of the book, the introduction, here we go. My reserve, my recoil from all exhibitionism was no doubt also a matter of heredity and upbringing. And there you go, that is Olivia by Dorothy Strachey. I've seen a lot of editions of it. This version is kind of pretty. I enjoyed it. It is, of course, from Penguin Classics. And I'm looking forward to reading this at some point. I really like that cover as well. Next, we have The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung-Sook Shin. This is, I mentioned in one of my bookshelf tours, because I ran into a lot of books that were recommended to me as somebody's favorite book or one of their favorite books. Kyung-Sook Shin is the favorite author of Matthew Sharapa, and I believe this is his favorite of hers, if not one of the favorites. And I'm always curious about what people describe as their favorite. So here it is. It was unexpectedly difficult to get. I had ordered it from one of my local indies around the time quarantine hit, because I wanted to support them about it, and they were unable to get a copy, which probably means it's going out of print in the United States, which is kind of scary. But I was able to order a copy online. If you're interested in this book, try to snap one up fast, because who knows if they're going to be reprinted. But anyway, it's The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung-Sook Shin. I did read a book by her last year. It was Please Look After Mom, or Please Look After Mother, and I really enjoyed it a lot. So I've been eager to listen I listened to Please Look After Mother on audio. I've been eager to read another book by Kyung-Sook Shin ever since. So here we have this one. Homesick and alone, a teenage girl has just arrived in Seoul to work in a factory. Her family, still in the countryside, is too impoverished to keep sending her to school, and so she works long, sunless days on a stereo assembly line, struggling through night school every evening in order to achieve her dream of becoming a writer. Richly autobiographical, The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness lays bare the conflict and confusion Shin faces as she confronts her past and the sweeping social change of the past half-century. Cited in Korea as one of the most important literary novels of the decade, this book cements Shin's legacy as one of the most insightful and exciting authors of her generation. Now, I don't know if I'm going to manage to get to this in August, but it would be a perfect fit for Women in Translation Month. So I have it earmarked for that, because I want to participate in that again. That's actually when I read the Please Look After Mom as well. So it seems like a great fit for that, but also just an interesting book. I really like the idea of social change reflected in a book. So yeah, it seems like a very me book anyway. So I'm excited about this. Let's do the first sentence. It is, this book, I believe, will turn out to be not quite fact and not quite fiction, but something in between. And that is The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung-Sook Shin. This is published by Pegasus, but like I said, if you're interested in this book, try to snap up a copy quickly, because I don't know if it's going to be reprinted in the US. Next, we have Camp by L.C. Rosen, putting the out in the great outdoors. This is something that was talked about on Jen, or LGBT. Well, her channel used to be LGBTQ Reads with Jen. She just recently changed it to Jen the Librarian. I will link her channel down below. She talked about this book on her channel and on social media, and it sounded like a delight. So I snapped it up, and I'm looking forward to getting to it. One of my challenges for my Read Outside Your Comfort Zone challenge this year, which is my goal, my reading goal for 2020, is to read genres I don't usually read. I'm not unfamiliar with YA, but I don't read a lot of YA, so this could help me with that. And part of what I'm trying to do is find books that hit my, check my boxes as a reader, and then get out of that a little bit to experience the genre as a whole. So this one obviously would tick some of my boxes as a reader. 16-year-old Randy Kappelhoff loves spending the summer at Camp Outland, a camp for queer teens. It's where he met his best friends, it's where he performs in the Big Camp musical, and it's where he fell for Hudson Aronson Lim, who barely knows he exists. Hudson is a masculine gay boy who is attracted to other masculine gay boys, and Randy is decidedly not masc. Still, he wants Hudson to be his boyfriend, and this year is going to be different. Randy returns to camp as Dell, masked and looking for love. Even if it means giving up show tunes, nail polish, and his unicorn bed sheets, he's determined to get Hudson to fall for him. But as he and Hudson grow closer, Randy has to ask himself how much he is willing to change for love. And is it really love anyway if Hudson doesn't know who Randy truly is? This is described as a sweet and sharp screwball comedy that critiques the culture of toxic masculinity within the queer community. And that honestly is one of the things that really sold me on it, because I think that's something that really needs to be addressed. I know, and I think it is changing, or certainly getting better, but I know for a fact it's a thing, because even when I was thinking about being gay and coming out, there was a little bit of dislike, a little bit of hatred about more effeminate people. I was like, well, I'm not like that, and I don't want to be like that. And it breeds self-hatred, and that is why, in particular, it is a part of the LGBTQ community that kind of needs to be reckoned with and dealt with and talked about a little bit more. And I am really excited to read this book to try to get at that. And I like the idea of using this form of where someone in a relationship pretends to be something they're not, and with like a queer twist that talks about that kind of toxic masculinity and the kind of hatred and the loathing, because there are always people within your community that you can other, and within the queer community it's been the more effeminate people, men specifically I'm talking about. But so I'm very interested to get around to reading this book at some point, and I'm very happy for the recommendation which came from Jen. The first sentence of the book is, "The smell wraps around me like a reunion between old friends when I step off the bus." And it's kind of fun cover as well. So yeah, looking forward to this as well. It is actually recommended for fans of What If It's Us and to all the boys I've loved before, neither of which I have read. So maybe if I like this, I should check out those as well. This is published by Little Brown. By the way, I used to work in publishing, and when I worked in publishing, I was always hyper aware of what publisher put what book out. And since I left publishing, I have not paid attention to it at all. So I'm trying to be more aware as a reader of that, because I think it's interesting what publishers put what books out and all that stuff. And I think it's a good thing to like a book, but I think it's also good to throw some support to the publisher for being willing to, put out a book like this, or publish a translated work and things like that. So I'm trying to be much more cognizant as a reader of the publishers that are putting out the books that I'm interested in reading, and give them a little bit of a shout out too. The final book in my July book haul is The Cooking Gene, A Journey Through African American Culinary History in the Old South by Michael W. Twitty. He is a culinary historian. This was actually put on my radar by a TV show. I believe I mentioned Padma Lakshmi's Taste the Nation, which is on Hulu last month, and we finished the series. There is an episode where she talks with the Gullah people in North Carolina and talks about the Gullah cultural identity, Gullah cuisine, and how it is one of the oldest cultures in the United States, but it has been overlooked and overtaken by some things. Gullah cuisine inspired what is more commonly known as like Cajun or Creole cuisine, but it's not very well known and is now, of course, in danger of dying out. And Michael Twitty was a guest on that episode, and he cooked something with Padma Lakshmi, and they mentioned his book. And I love that TV show, by the way. If you have not watched it, I would absolutely say check it out. It is so good. It is. I really appreciated its sociology of the United States and what it is to be an American through the lens of food politics. I thought it was really fascinating, and I'm very much looking forward to this. Actually, my husband is reading this right now, and he says it's just as fascinating as the episode was. So, Southern food is integral to the American culinary tradition, yet the question of who owns it is one of the most provocative touchpoints in our ongoing struggles over race. In this unique memoir, Twitty takes readers to the white-hot center of this fight, tracing the roots of his own family and the charged politics surrounding the origins of soul food, barbecue, and all Southern cuisine. Twitty travels from the tobacco and rice farms of colonial times to plantation kitchens and backbreaking cotton fields to tell of the struggles his family faced and how food enabled his ancestors' survival across 3 centuries. He sifts through stories, recipes, genetic tests, and historical documents and visits Civil War battlefields in Virginia, synagogues in Alabama, and black-owned organic farms in Georgia. As he takes us through his ancestral culinary history, Twitty suggests that healing may come from embracing the discomfort of the South's past. Along the way, he reveals a truth that is more than skin deep, the power of food to bring the kin of the enslaved and their former slaveholders to the table, where they can discover the real America together. Fascinating. I know when I mentioned this on Instagram, and somebody recommended the Potlicker Papers, which I have not had a chance to look into yet, but I'm looking forward to that as well. It just sounds like a really fascinating book, especially in the current political moment. Yeah, absolutely something I want to explore and learn more about. So let's do the first sentence. And I love anything that has a family tree. I love anything that has a family tree or a map or footnotes. So right away, this book is doing it for me. Here we go. Oh, and it starts with a quote from James Baldwin. Let me get to the first chapter. Chapter 1, No More Whistling Walk for Me. 5 a.m. The sun isn't quite up. That's not a full sentence. Let's do the first full sentence. When I cook on a plantation, before I do anything else, I put on the representative clothes. And there you go. That is The Cooking Gene by Michael W. Twitty. This is published by Amistad, which is, I believe, a division of HarperCollins. Yes, a division of HarperCollins. So that's Cooking Gene by Michael Twitty, Camp by Elsie Rosen, The Girl Who Wrote Loneliness by Kyung-Sook Shin, and Olivia by Dorothy Strachey. And last but certainly not least, we have My Mack Cheese, a cookbook by my husband. And again, I'll put the link to that down below so you can have a look if you see fit. Anyway, that's what I brought into my library in the month of July. Actually, I mentioned in my June book haul that there were books that I had ordered because June was my birthday month and they weren't going to arrive until July, and that was actually all 3 of these. So by the way, I'm doing better about not spending a whole lot of money this year. The only one that, well, we purchased a lot of the cookbook that we made, but this is the only one that was an outright purchase in the month of July. These were purchased in June with birthday money. So anyway, that's just neither here nor there, but I thought it was interesting. And I guess I want credit for not spending a whole lot of money. But anyway, that's what I brought into my library this month, and I would love to hear any opinions you might have about any of these, any recommendations based on these, and I would love to hear what you brought into your library in the month of July and how you're doing. Hope you're doing well. Keep wearing masks and socially distancing and all that. Stay safe, and I really appreciate your time, as always. You are the best, and I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.